All right, well, welcome everyone. My name is Laura with the Plano Public Library, and I want to thank you all for joining us for today's program. Please note your microphone and video have been turned off. If you have any questions, you can type them into the chat. Heather will be monitoring the chat to assist you with any issues and bring questions to my attention. We will also be sure to leave time for questions at the end. I do have a few housekeeping reminders that I do want to share with everyone. Please note that this program is being recorded and will be made available on the Plano Public Library YouTube page for later viewing. Soliciting business or selling merchandise during library virtual programs is prohibited. Please show respect for our presenters and one another throughout the program. Zoom provides live captioning, and the option is available in the Zoom toolbar. So welcome to Be a Citizen Scientist, iNaturalist. This is a series of 3 programs. This is our final of the 3, each focusing on a different citizen science opportunity. And this week, we are going to talk about iNaturalist. Before I get started, let's take a moment to take a look at what citizen science is. Citizen science is a collaboration between scientists and people who are curious or concerned about the world around them and are motivated to make a difference. It was not until recently that science became an occupation. In the past, science was something done in your leisure time. For example, in 1674, Antony van Leeuwenhoek, I always stumble over that, discovered microorganisms. Now, he was a cloth merchant who made lenses that allowed him to inspect the weaves of fabric. But in his free time, he would use these lenses, which were more powerful than the microscopes of the time, to look at pond water. And today he is known as the father of microbiology. Over time, science moved into the realm of professionals. Citizen science is a continuation of this tradition of the everyday scientist. Anyone can participate. The data collected by citizen scientists help professional scientists come to very real conclusions. Citizen science results in rigorous, reliable, and trusted science. Don't worry about having the expertise that scientists have. People who are not scientists still have the skills that are valuable to citizen science. As you work on citizen science projects, your expertise on the topic will grow. You are the expert of your surroundings. You know when something is different or off, and this is valuable when you are doing citizen science projects about the world around you. Citizen science projects do rely on experts to validate observations, and multiple citizen scientists review the same thing so that a trustworthy consensus is reached. So don't let a fear of being wrong hold you back. And now that we've talked about what citizen science is, let's jump into iNaturalist. iNaturalist is an online social network of people sharing biodiversity information to help each other learn about nature. iNaturalist's mission is to connect people to nature and advance biodiversity science and conservation. It began in 2008 as the master's final project for students at UC Berkeley School of Information. Over the years, it expanded. In 2014, it became an initiative of the California Academy of Sciences, and in 2017, it became a joint initiative with the National Geographic Society. By 2023, iNaturalist had become an independent nonprofit organization. And what you see on the screen right now is the outline of Collin County with all the iNaturalist submissions, observations that occurred as of April 16th, 2024. So not quite a year ago, but as you can see, a lot of people are submitting a lot of observations. iNaturalist is a crowdsourced species identification system and an organism occurrence recording tool. This means that you can use iNaturalist to record the plants, fungus, and animals that you see, as well as get help with identifying what they are. It does not record all ecological phenomena. So like rocks or water features, it is only going to focus on plants, animals, and fungus. There is a web version, and iNaturalist is available as a free app for both the Apple and Android devices. So today we will be talking about iNaturalist and its features. We will briefly discuss setting up your iNaturalist account, but the intent of this program is to introduce citizen scientists to iNaturalist. So creating your account. I'm going to talk about creating an iNaturalist account using the web version, but you also have the option to create an account using the app. So you will go to iNaturalist's main page, and you're going to click sign up in the top right-hand corner. And you will need an email to create your account. You must agree to the terms of use, privacy policy, and community guidelines in order to create that account. Consenting to allow iNaturalist to store and process limited kinds of personal information is required as well, because iNaturalist needs to share usernames and emails to manage accounts. Clicking Learn More will make a window pop up. They'll give you more details. Consenting to allow your personal information to be transferred to the US is for those users who live outside the US, but consent is required to create an account, even if you do live in the US. Clicking Learn More will make a window pop up that will have more details. Agreeing to license your photos, sounds, and observations so scientists can use your data is not required, but it is recommended if you want your submissions to be usable by researchers. So you will want to say yes to that if that is the case. So bear with me just a moment. I am going to exit our show and then pull up my iNaturalist account. So on your profile page on the web version, it's going to look like this. If you click Edit Account and Settings Profile, it's going to let you edit a few things. So let's see here. Right under here. And these are going to be your settings. So under Profile, you will be able to edit your username. This is the display name that shows up on your profile and in any copyright attributions for your observations. And then on the right of the screen, there is the option to write a short biography. What do you want other users to know about you? This is where you're going to put it. And under Account, you can choose your language and your time zone as well. And then Notifications lets you pick what kind of notifications you would like to receive. If you do not want to receive any emails, that is an option under Email Notifications. Now, under Relationships, again, this is a social media type site, but if there's someone who you just don't want to look at your material or interact with, you can block users here. And then under Content and Display, you can decide if you want the common name or the scientific name of things displayed when you use iNaturalist. So you can see I have it set to common name. That doesn't mean that the scientific name will not pop up. It's just going to be in parentheses. So the first thing I see is the common name. I do like sticking with the common name because we typically say, oh, look, a squirrel, not its Latin binomial name. And then the community moderation settings. Because iNaturalist is a social network, others can use your ID in your observation or can ID your observations. And we're going to get into this a little more later, but this can be a very helpful feature if you are unsure of what you're looking at. But if you would rather others not be able to ID your observations, you can control those settings here. And that's just this check mark right here, accept community identifications. So now we're going to head back to our presentation. I'm going to talk about using the app to add an observation. So the app is the easiest way to upload your observations, as you can use your smartphone to take pictures and then immediately upload them. I have an Android device, so the screenshots that you are about to see are what the app looks like to Android users. So it may look just a little bit different if you have an Apple device, but not that big of a difference. The process of adding an observations, the iPhone is going to be similar as well. You can view the step-by-step iPhone instructions on the Getting Started page on iNaturalist's website. So you're going to start with the main page of the app, and it's titled My Observations. So you can see my observations right there. I have some birds, some flowers, some insects, and a millipede and a worm. There's a lot. At the top, it will show you the number of observations you have made, the number of species you have seen. Those typically won't match if you have submitted an observation of the same species more than once. And you can submit as many observations as of a species as you would like. It's still beneficial to science. And then the number of identifications for other users that you have made is there at the end. And like I said, we'll get to that in a moment. So to add an observation, you are going to touch that green plus sign in the middle, and then it will give you the option to upload no media. You can take a photo in the app. You can choose your image, record a sound, or choose a sound recording from your device. I typically choose an image from my device when I make an observation. And you can add more than one photo, up to about 500 or so. I wouldn't recommend that many, but you can see here I have added 3. Take a pause on creating that observation by talking about what makes a good observation. So while any verifiable observation can be of benefit to research, there are elements that you can do that will make your observations even more valuable. So before we continue to getting an ID for your observations, let's look at what will make your observations go even further for science. We're going to start with plant observations. This is one you may have seen fairly recently. These are grape hyacinths. They tend to pop up around March. And you're going to want to take photos from multiple angles and try to get pictures of all parts of the plant, including flowers, needles or leaves, leaf arrangement, bark, and seed pods. Now, my hyacinths, they do not have seed pods yet, but you can see I have this zoomed out, does show their leaves. And you'll want to include a photo of the entire plant that shows its general shape and growth pattern, which is that first picture on the left there. And I always like to start with a zoomed out photo and then start taking the detailed photos, which you can see in the second picture there in the middle. Now, if your camera is struggling to focus, you can put your hand or a sheet of paper behind the plant. If there's a breeze, you can gently hold it to get a photo, but only touch a plant if you're familiar with it. So avoid thorns, poison ivy, poison oak. When in doubt, just don't touch it. You can include something for scale, like a coin, a ruler, or a pencil. And taking pictures of plants that are either in full sun or full shade, so the colors and patterns are easy to recognize. So you don't want a shadow across the middle that can make it hard to see the colors. And then, as always, when you're out in nature, do not remove parts of the plant, so no leaves, seeds, or flowers. You want to leave it intact. And then there on the right is some annotations that you can do. And you can see that I said there are flowers and there are green leaves visible. Leaves popped up again because there's an option to say dead leaves or colored leaves, but these guys only had green and there was no fruits or seeds at that time. So what makes a good observation for wildlife? Wildlife can be trickier because unlike a plant, it can move. Start taking pictures as soon as you see the animal so that you can get at least one. As you approach it or get to a better position, you can zoom in for those more detailed photos. And of course, you don't want to startle it or chase it. Please don't try and catch it. You want to leave them wild. And you want to try and get pictures from either different angles or to zoom in on helpful identifying markers. So this you can see is a great egret. And I took the picture as I approached him. So that first one, he's further out, and then I was able to zoom in and get some better detailed photos. I made sure to include a picture that showed his breeding plumage, which is called an aigrette, which is French for egret. And they're not that visible on him right now. This was back in February when he would have just started growing them, but they're these fancy feathers out here. And then I also got his green lores, which is that skin between the eye and the bill. If you were to see an egret right now, those would probably be a vivid lime green. He was just starting to get his. And of course, don't get too close. We don't want to scare them. If they are frightened, they may act in unpredictable ways and never handle it. So please don't try and catch things. Again, I went into my annotations. Clearly, this guy was alive. I knew he was there because, well, he was there. So his organism was the evidence of presence. And in the life stage, he was definitely an adult. And then for bugs, I don't have any bugs, but approach slowly so you don't startle them. I found it helpful to approach from a direction that doesn't cause my shadow to land on the insect, because that can spook them. Try to take pictures from all angles to capture as many identifying marks as you can. And those that have distinctive wings, like moths or butterflies, do your best to get photos of the top and underside of their wings. This can be tricky, so don't worry if you don't get it. It's just one of those things. It'd be good if you can. Zoom out a bit and get a picture of the bug and its surroundings. This is especially helpful if you are photographing caterpillars, because caterpillars thrive on certain plants, like a monarch and milkweed. So including the plant in the photo can aid in the identification. Stepping a little bit away from bugs, but kind of still in the same category, if you're taking pictures of earthworms, try to gently clear soil and debris from them so it's not obstructing identifying marks. They're not easy to ID, so it helps if you can have the clitellum, segments, and setae visible, which are all the different identifying features of an earthworm. So, that like little inch of smooth skin towards their head. See if you can get that. It will help out. Okay. So let's talk about using the app to add an observation. When you click "What did you see?", it's going to help you identify it. So you can learn more about the organism that is the best match for your image by clicking on it. So that's that second picture from the left. My picture, it is suggesting that this could be a killdeer. So if I click on compare, which are those two arrows going opposite directions, it will actually take my picture and their picture and put them on the same screen so that you can kind of flip through their pictures and see how it matches with yours. And then if you click the green select button, you are identifying your observation as that organism. So in this case, I did see a killdeer. These guys like to hang out at the Carpenter Park, behind Carpenter Park Rec Center. They're pretty active this time of year. Now, there is the option to add notes. So you're going to click on the notes, and date, time, and location should auto-populate. Now, location visibility is going to be right next to the icon of the Earth. You have a few choices here. Open, that's going to show other users the location and latitude and longitude of your observation. This does help with identifying it. It also helps if someone wants to see it as well to know where to go. Obscured will make the latitude and longitude more general. So if you don't want them to know. I'm so sorry. If you don't want them to know exactly where you were, obscured is a good choice. And private will post no location information at all. So if you are posting something on sensitive habitat, or maybe it's endangered and you don't really want to broadcast where it was, but you do want to tell people, hey, look what I saw, private is a good choice for that. And if you're submitting an observation of something intentionally grown, like some landscaping or at an arboretum, or an animal in the care of humans, like at a zoo or a wildlife refuge, you're going to want to click the box next to, is it captive or cultivated? Otherwise, if you just submit an elephant you saw at the zoo, it might appear that there's elephants hanging out by the Trinity River in Dallas. Now, projects, we're going to go into that in a moment, but at this time, you will be adding projects to your observation. And then you'll click that green circle with a check mark to submit your observation. Now that you have submitted an observation, let's see what it looks like. So at the top, you can see your profile picture and your username, and then the date and time of the observation. Below that are going to be your pictures, and below that are the observation's ID. And clicking the arrow will display information about your organism. Now, under the circle with an eye in it, you will see a map showing where the observation was made, and then it'll talk about your data quality. This is an assessment that is a summary of an observation's accuracy and completeness, which determines its suitability for sharing with data partners. And what that means is it research grade, or is it just you think this is what this is? For an observation in iNaturalist to be used by researchers, it needs to be a verifiable observation. A verifiable observation has a date, is geo-referenced, meaning it has latitude and longitude coordinates, has pictures or sound recordings, and is not captive or cultivated. All observations begin as verifiable observations, and then they're labeled as needs ID. Observations not meeting verifiable status are labeled as casual grade. Verifiable observations become research grade when the iNaturalist community agrees, more than 2/3 of identifiers, that a species is what you have said it is. And we'll get into that in a moment. So you can see this screenshot was from when I had just submitted it and it was still a needs ID. It did eventually make that research grade. And I talked about this a little bit when I talked about making your observations more helpful for science. These are the annotations. You can edit them yourself, but someone else might do it for you. And these will change based on what kind of organism you observed. So what are shown are for birds. Is it alive or it's dead? That's one that you can usually figure out. Figuring out if it is male or female can be difficult with birds. It can either be really easy. The males have brilliant plumage, and you're like, yes, that is a male peacock. Other times, they're going to look a lot alike, and you can either say cannot be determined or skip it. And someone with more knowledge about that species may be able to tell you. The life stage, is it an adult, juvenile, is it an egg? And then the evidence of presence. This lets you choose more than one. And what is telling you that that organism was there? In this case, it was the organism itself. But if you are submitting a observation of some scat you found on a trail or some footprints, you can absolutely do that. A construction would be a nest. I have submitted nests for birds before, as well as crawdad nest. Those are all evidence of presence. Now, under the comments, which is the two little text box or chat boxes, you will see others' ID of your organism and any comments they leave behind. You can see here, another user agreed with me that this is a killdeer. I rarely get comments, but sometimes someone will say, hey, can you get a picture of the plant that this was on? Or, wow, this is really cool. So it's sometimes fun to engage with other nature lovers. And then that star will show you who has favorited your observation. And you also have the option to favor an observation here. So if it's something that you just really, really like, go ahead and favorite it. Okay, so I am going to again exit our presentation and we're just going to pull up the browser version because now we're going to talk about the observation calendar. This is something that you can see only in the browser and you need to go to your profile for it. You can click calendar, which is right here, and it's going to automatically display the current year, but you have the option to go back for as many years as you have had your iNaturalist account. So the dates that are bolded and in blue are dates that you have submitted an observation on. You can see that some of mine are in blue, but there's also gray circles around some of them. These are dates that have multiple observations. The darker the gray is, the more observations have occurred on that date. And hovering over a date will cause a number to pop up, and that will tell you how many observations were submitted on that day. So you can see on April 2nd, I did 2. So clicking on a date takes you to an overview of that day. And we're going to go back in time to last April on April 27th. You can see I had 34 here. So let's give it a minute to get there. Now at the top, there are 3 circles. The number of organisms you saw is going to be displayed in that first one. You can see I submitted 32 species on this date. Now next to it is a breakdown by family. So I recorded 12 plants, 3 reptiles, 7 insects, and 1 other animal. In this case, it's a centipede. Now the second circle shows the number of observations you made that day. So your taxa may be a smaller number than your observations if you submitted more than 1 observation of the same species. Next is a breakdown of the location of all your sightings, and you can see that most of my sightings were in Dallas County. The third and final circle tells you how many life list first you recorded that day. These are individual species you have never submitted an observation for before. There is the beginnings of a list next to it, and clicking View All will make a pop-up appear, displaying the complete list. So there was quite a few that day. And this particular day, I went to White Rock Lake. So you can see I saw a lot of plants. Probably one of my favorite observations. Let's see if it'll open up for me, is monk parakeets. If you've ever been to White Rock Lake near the spillway, there is a colony of feral parakeets, and they are quite loud. I do recommend visiting them. So let's go back to our profile. Oops. And we're going to click on list because we saw on the calendar that iNaturalist maintains a life list for you. So let's take a closer look at that. So you click on the 4th heading from the right, which is list, and it's going to show you a couple of different things. Your dynamic life list is a list of every species you recorded through iNaturalist. So let's take a look at that. And I have observed 415 species. Now the pictures that are displayed are not mine. They are the pictures for that species. I really love birds, so surprised that the species I've observed the most is actually a turtle pond slider. And let's go back to the favorites list. Now this is a list you can edit. Here is where you will add your favorite species. Because iNaturalist is also a social media platform, this is a way to let other users know your favorite creatures. When you click on the name, it's going to take you to an information page about it. And then clicking edit will allow you to add a comment. And then if you click on observations by you, here's where it's going to collect all your observations for that species. So you can see I have had quite a few woodpecker observations. And you can create a new list and manually add species from the Add to your list option on the right-hand side. So let's go back to that main page of list. You can create a new list. I can't think of another list that I would do, so that's why I just have my favorites and my dynamic life list. So now let's talk about projects. That's going to be up here under community. Let's click on projects. iNaturalist projects allow users to pull observations with others. Anyone can start a project, but today we're only going to look at joining and participating in iNaturalist projects. You can join them and view them through the app. I just prefer to view them through the browser. It feels more user-friendly to me. So we already navigated here. They are under the community tab. And you can search for a project by name. You can view the featured ones. I like to just do a search for Texas because these are the ones I typically be able to participate in. Here are all the different Texas ones. Now, when deciding if you want to join a project or not, you'll want to click on the terms and rules. So let's look at Moths of Texas. So here, let's see. I don't think it shows what I wanted to show. So let's look at Birds of Texas. There we go, terms and rules. So let's click there. These will tell you what you must do to submit your observations to the project that you want to join. Most rules are fairly simple. For example, the Plants of Texas requires that all observations be made in the state of Texas. It's the same for birds. And the organism must be a bird. Terms are typically similar among different projects. Don't do anything illegal like trespassing, and don't use your observations for commercial gains. And then if we go back to the main project page, you can head down here to the About section, and it'll tell you all about the project. Now, if the rules and terms seem doable to you and this project is of interest, you can click Join this project in the upper right-hand corner. I'm already a member of this one, so it says leave this project instead, but you could join the project. And then as you submit bird pictures, observations, you can add them to this project. So let's go back to what it looks like to add a project in the app. So when adding an observation, you're going to click Add to Project at the very bottom. It looks like a little briefcase. And this takes you to a list of the projects you have joined. So you can see here, I have several. My favorites are Birds of North Texas and Birds of Texas. Never Home Alone, the Wildlife of Homes, is a really fun one. In this project, you upload pictures of animals you find in your home. Mine are typically insects. And it's run by Rob Dunn, and he's written a book called Never Home Alone. It's about the wildlife of homes. And so this project is furthering his research that he outlines in that book, which is owned by the Plano Public Library, if you'd like to take a deeper dive. And of course, there's also the Insects of Texas, where I post all my insect pictures. Now, occasionally, another user may add your observations to a project, even if you're not part of that project. I find when I add plants to my observations, that Plants of Texas, someone's going to add it to their project. Once you've selected the two that meet your observation, so you can see here, I am uploading a moth, which is an insect, but it is also a member of the Lepidoptera family, moths and butterflies. So I've clicked them both, and now they are both added to that project. In that same vein, let's talk about the City Nature Challenge. The City Nature Challenge began as a competition in 2016 between Los Angeles and San Francisco to see who could submit the most observations over a 4-day time period. Since that time, the City Nature Challenge has grown into an international event where people participate in a friendly competition to find and document wildlife in their cities. Now, if you remember a few slides back, we looked at what I was doing on April 27th of last year. I had a lot of observations. It was because I was participating in the 2024 City Nature Challenge. And in that Nature Challenge, 83,500 observers in 690 cities across 51 countries submitted 2.4 million observations. This year's challenge is coming up. It is April 25th through the 28th. Now, typically, the other major cities in Texas, San Antonio, Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, Galveston, and Austin, have a fairly friendly competition against one another. So last year, DFW took second place in observations with 46,986 submitted observations, while San Antonio took first place with 65,080. DFW took third place in the number of species observed. There was 2,932. San Antonio had 3,415, and Houston Galveston had 3,620. And DFW took third place in the number of participating observers with just 1,513. Houston Galveston had 1,610, and Austin took first place with 1,654. So if you are interested in participating, it is a Friday through Monday challenge, and all you need to do is upload observations to iNaturalist in one of the 10 counties that make up Dallas-Fort Worth. So that includes Collin, as well as Dallas, Denton, Ellis, Johnson, Kaufman, Parker, Rockwall, Tarrant, and Wise. You do not have to join a project. Anything submitted during the 4 days count. But there is a project you can join, and here you can see events held by organizations during the challenge if you'd like to attend them. And you can make your observations anywhere. This includes your own backyard. But if you want your observations to make a more meaningful impact, it is recommended that you go to a public park. By making your observation in a park, you are demonstrating that parks are places people go to get close to nature. I can pull up this year's project page. Oh, I just clicked people instead of projects. See here. Here it is. City Nature Challenge 2025 for Dallas-Fort Worth. You can see this outline box is, if you are in this box and you submit an observation, it's going to count. And we don't have any journal posts yet because we still have 17 days. But let me show you last year so you can see what those journal posts will look like. Get a posting of the results, but you will also have some events that are taking place. So there's black lighting events. These are where they use a white sheet and a black light to attract insects at night. The Trinity River Audubon Center is typically pretty active this day, and you can see there's some BioBlitz going on as well. So let's move on to exploring. So in addition to submitting observations, you can identify the observations of others. So in both the app and the browser version, you can view others' observations under Explore, which is where we are now. So if you click on an observation, you will get a better look at it. So you can see where they saw it, when they saw it, as well as some pictures of it. You can see this is a great example of a plant observation. You have the flowers, You have a zoomed out photo of it. You have up close of the leaves, and then another zoomed out one. And they have identified this as a common sow thistle. I don't know enough about plants to feel confident to be like, yes, that's what this is, or no, I think it's this. But if I were familiar and I agreed with this observation, I'd just click agree, and that would add to it and help them reach that 2/3 majority for a research grade ID. Now, if you think it's something else, you can go down here and suggest an identification. You want to say why you're disagreeing with them. And I like to use the suggestions of other users to help me ID things I'm not familiar with. So I'll label something as a bird or an insect and wait for someone who knows more than me to ID it. So in order to return the favor, I do try to ID the observations of others. I'm not the best at it, but if there's a neighborhood bird, I'm pretty good at identifying them. And just to show you a recent observation I posted, sometimes you're just so excited, but you don't really trust yourself. You're like, what if I'm wrong? Don't get too excited. And that was the case for me this weekend when I saw an indigo bunting. I was pretty sure, 99.9% sure I saw an indigo bunting, but I don't feel like I'm an expert, so I needed someone else to confirm. And as you can see, someone said, yes, this is an indigo bunting, which was a very pleasant and exciting surprise for a cold, dreary Sunday. Let's look at another app that is supported by iNaturalist. If the social network aspect of iNaturalist is something that you wish to avoid, Seek might be a better fit for you. It is also a free app and no registration is required. No user data is collected and your location is obscured. It is sometimes referred to as like the Pokemon Go of the natural world because you will scan your surroundings using your device's camera to identify organisms, get badges for their observations, and learn about what you are seeing. Please note though, because this isn't storing data, if you get a new phone, all your observations in the Seek app are not going to carry over. They will be gone for good. So if you really want to hang on to those observations, iNaturalist is the way to go. But if you're not wanting to do that social media aspect, or maybe you're going to do this with young children, Seek kind of gamifies it. It might be a good choice for you. So let's take a look at a few iNaturalist success stories. So an iNaturalist user here, Pav Johnson, was vacationing in New Zealand, and he decided to hang a moth light on his hotel balcony. The next morning, he found a moth that he did not recognize, took its picture, posted it to iNaturalist, and waited. And users soon had an answer for him. This is a frosted phoenix moth. Now, it doesn't look like much. It's not super flashy, but it hadn't been seen in 65 years. So they assumed it was extinct, and no one had ever taken a picture of it before until now. So he rediscovered a thought to be lost species, as well as got the first picture known to science, which is pretty cool. Heading into the ocean, we have a Myaxostoma petavarianum. I think I may have messed up on that second part of its name. But in the 1700s, during one of Captain Cook's Pacific voyages, a snail shell was collected. You can see the original drawing. And a few decades later, it was deemed new to science. It was given a name, and then it was never seen again. In 2014, an iNaturalist user in Vietnam uploaded this photo of a gastropod, and it was ID'd as the Myaxostoma petavarianum by other users. This was the first time it had ever been recorded alive, and this was the first mention of it in about 300 years. So very exciting, especially for conservation reasons. It's cool to know that it's still out there. And speaking of conservation, there's this tiny little plant. This is the green mountain quillwort. It was discovered in Vermont and added to iNaturalist, but it wasn't identified because it didn't have a name. It had been previously undescribed by science. So today, its conservation status is critically imperiled. It has received a protection it would not have received had it never been located by a citizen scientist who was just taking pictures of plants they found out in Vermont. It was pretty exciting. It now has protection. It's hard to protect what you don't know about. So now that we know about it, those protections have been added. Now, don't let those success stories intimidate you. You may not find a previously undiscovered organism, but your everyday observations are just as, if not more important than a standout success. When you think about birds, you're like, I just have blue jays and cardinals that come to my yard every day. Go ahead and record them. Songbird numbers are declining at a rapid rate across the United States and truly around the world. So scientists can get a good read on how many are where through observations that you make on iNaturalist. So go out, make observations either in your backyard, at a Plano park. Plano has 85 parks and 98 miles of trails waiting to be explored. You can make them anywhere. I make them in parking lots or here at work. There's a very pretty pink lady flower outside our door here at Davis that I have added to iNaturalist. And of course, April 25th through the 28th, you can participate in the City Nature Challenge, maybe help bump DFW higher up on the leaderboard for 2025. And then keep an eye on our website for our summer calendar. It should be up soon. We will have more citizen science programs occurring and some other kind of nature adjacent ones as well. So with that, that is all that I have for you today. If you have questions, you can go ahead and drop them in the chat. If you think of one later, you can always submit it through our Ask a Librarian page. It will come through and someone will see that it involves bugs or birds or nature, and they will find the right person to give it to.
I am not seeing any questions so far. Both the chat and the Q&A are open if you do have questions.
All right, well, thank you, everyone. We really appreciate you being here. Be sure to stay up to date with Plano Public Library by following our Facebook page and our Instagram. Please complete our program survey, which should pop up following this program. You can also find this and past recordings on our YouTube channel. We value your feedback. Thanks again for joining us today, and we will see you next time.